Have you ever heard somebody say that 80% of kids with gender dysphoria eventually grow out of it? Because that statistic has been haunting legislative hearings like a ghost that everybody keeps insisting that they saw, but nobody can quite tell you where. And part of the problem is that people keep using two words like they mean the same thing, and that is detransition and desistance. Detransition describes somebody who actually transitioned and then later reversed or stopped at some point in that transition. Desistance comes from older research on children whose gender nonconformity didn't persist as they got older. And here's where things get goofy. A lot of the research behind that famous 80% claim used the old DSM-4 criteria for gender identity disorder in children. Back then, a child didn't actually have to say, I'm a different gender, to meet those criteria. Things like preferring clothes associated with another sex, playing with kids of another sex, or preferring certain kinds of make-believe play could all count toward a diagnosis. So imagine a tomboy gets sent to a gender clinic in the 1990s. She grows up and she's still a cisgender woman. Congratulations, we've suddenly documented a transgender child growing out of being transgender. Except, when was she transgender? One of the researchers you'll see connected to this 80% claim, if you bother to look, is Thomas Steensma. His 2011 paper mentions an 84.2% desistance figure from earlier follow-up studies, and that's one of the numbers that gets tossed around in this conversation. And here's my favorite part. He and his co-author wrote that their studies couldn't reliably be used to calculate persistence and desistance rates, and Steensma later said that providing those numbers would lead to, quote, wrong conclusions. So we've got legislators using this research to make decisions about transgender healthcare in the 2020s, and the guy whose name is on the research is basically going, that's not what my study says. So anti-trans campaigners take these old desistance studies and start talking about them as if they show transgender kids transitioning and then changing their minds. That's a pretty significant word swap. Modern research that actually follows socially transitioned kids looks very different. One study followed 317 of them for about 5 years, and at the end, 94% still identified as a binary transgender, another 3.5% identified as non-binary, and only 2.5% identified as cisgender. And remember the puberty blocker research we talked about the other day? Once kids actually reach the point of receiving pubertal suppressants, the overwhelming majority later continue on to hormone therapy. Those are the kids we're actually talking about when we're discussing gender-affirming healthcare today. So the next time somebody tells you that 80% of trans kids detransition, ask them two questions. Did you actually look at the study that claims that? And did the kids in that study ever actually transition? Because you can't detransition from a transition you never had.